Ladies and gentlemen, moving into the keynote address by Mr. Ganesh Guruswamy, Senior Vice President, Western Digital, on the topic Innovation in a Data-Centric World. Before he comes on, a very brief introduction. Mr. Guruswamy currently serves as Senior Vice President, Flash Product Group for Western Digital. He maintains offices in Bangalore and at the company's headquarters in the US. Mr. Guruswamy served as a Vice President at SanDisk Corporation from 2013 to 2016 and as a Vice President at Motorola Freescale Semiconductor from 1997 to 2013, developing system-on-chips for multiple market segments, including automotive, wireless, and networking. Prior to Motorola, he worked at AMD from 1992 to 1997, designing the x86 class of microprocessors. Ladies and gentlemen, please extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Ganesh Guruswamy.
Good afternoon. So the speakers before actually had a lot of my thought process built into the presentation, built into their presentation, and talked about data. So the data suggests today that I'm between you and lunch, and it's very difficult for me to concentrate when you have to fight against the mind and the stomach. Usually the stomach wins. So I'm trying to take this opportunity to give some information in the next 30 minutes, which probably is going to be much more relevant, and hopefully your mind wins over your stomach. With that, thank you for hosting me here. I would like to thank IESA. Before I go to my next slides, just want to make a few comments on IESA. It's the 12th edition. We've been focusing on semiconductor for the last decade or so. I just want to reiterate one thing. Semiconductor is the fulcrum of innovation for any industry you can think about. The reason I'm telling this is in the last few years, or last couple of years to a few months, you've been seeing a lot of strategic acquisitions happening. My speakers previously mentioned about the massive amount of consolidation that is happening. Yes, there is reason why it's happening from an economic sense, but also it's happening from a very geopolitical sense. So a lot of the governments are waking up to the extent that the US government last year initiated a committee of CEOs from different technology companies to see how the US can continue to be at the forefront of semiconductor technology. So the governments are waking up. They understand the potential of semiconductors, how they can disrupt the market, not just one market, multiple markets in multiple dimensions. So first, I'd like to commend IESA for continuing to do this, and please continue to do that. I think it's very important for us to continue to push semiconductors far ahead. A lot of innovation yet to happen. This slide, obviously, I have to do it as an engineer, not from a finance perspective. Please don't trade, please don't do anything based on what you're going to see here. So for the last 5 years, Western Digital has proactively transformed itself by acquiring 2 large companies. We have united 3 separate companies into one, which is part of a direct result of an integrated strategy, which has enabled us to assimilate key technologies and building blocks to construct a powerful platform. Let us put a historical perspective as why this is happening. Western Digital transformed itself in the last few years from acquiring component companies to becoming a fully vertically integrated leader in hard drive. HGST turned around itself and transformed with relentless focus on data center innovation. SanDisk, which I was part of, has transformed or transforming itself from a consumer flash storage leader into an enterprise flash storage. As a result of this, we believe we are well positioned for a long-term success. So Western Digital, in addition to acquiring all these companies, also has something called the Western Digital Capital. We continue to invest strategically into companies aligned with our strategic direction, leveraging our presence in key markets and centers of innovation from Silicon Valley down to Asia to Israel and around the world. We believe we have full complement of client solutions, client devices, data center solutions to meet our customers' needs. And what has this done? This has literally put us on top of the storage market. And we believe it's an incredible time from a storage industry perspective. One of my speakers before made a very brief remark of how processing is going to come around storage. Before, storage used to be just a component, and processors used to take dominance over the architecture. In the next few years, you're going to see how the processing world is going to innovate itself to meet how the storage is going to grow and hierarchy of storages that are going to happen. These are some of the products across different market segments that we deliver, and I believe this is just the start of how the data explosion is going to happen. And as my speakers previously mentioned, data is going to be key for growth, and we see it in all markets that we participate in. I just want to go through some of our operations that we have, just to give you an idea around where we invest in terms of global operations. And we invest in multiple manufacturing operations. One is obviously the solid-state storage. We have heads, we have media, we have hard disk drives. Just to give an example, a flash storage fab investment is equal to the investment of 50 Dreamliners. I didn't realize it until I moved to the storage industry. And the output of a flash fab is equivalent to 6 high-end microprocessor fabs. That blew my mind away, because I believed I was in the high end of manufacturing until I moved to the storage industry, and I couldn't believe the level of complexity and manufacturing breadth the storage industry was going through. And if you stack up all the solid-state flash disks that we were producing in the last 1 year, can you guess what the height of that flash storage would be? It would be equal to the height of Mount Kilimanjaro, just in 1 year. And that's incredible. Again, I have been in the semiconductor industry, been part of all the market segments, but I couldn't believe a revolution was happening in the storage industry that I wasn't aware. And I thank myself sometimes to my guides and mentors who always pull me into an industry which I didn't realize was growing. And when I grow there, I'm like blown apart. In Bangalore, in India, we have offices in Bangalore and Delhi. 99% of it is in product development. We do end-to-end product development from here. We have around 1,200 employees in Bangalore. And we have end-to-end capability of developing consumer flash storage from India. And we believe we have the technology engine, the portfolio breadth, the market reach, being a trusted partner. We talked about storage being a key component today in a lot of areas that we can think about, accessibility, security, and stuff. And we think we can be a very good trusted partner across multiple market segments and have the financial leadership to survive in this growing market. Before I go any further, I'd like to take you through a historical perspective of storage, which I myself went through in the last 4 years. It was an eye-opener for me, coming from the semiconductor industry, mainly being from the SoC world, mainly being from the processor world. I always assumed storage was a few bits of memory that people stored. And I didn't realize how it had evolved and what amount of innovation is happening there. It really opened my eyes. So before I go there, I just want to take a look at the slide. It's a very powerful slide. If you're looking at this slide, just think about what has happened in the last 6 decades of storage. You can see from a hard drive perspective, I'm not still come to the solid state part of it, what is happening in the hard drive part of it. If you went to 1960s and looked at what storage gave us, 5 megabytes, 50 disks, which is 24 inches, and look at the power. To where we are today, from a 10 terabyte capacity with 7 disks and a power of 9 watts. And the bullet down, if you go to the active archival system that we today give to a lot of our customers, we store almost 6 petabytes. So I just want to give you a reference to what a petabyte is. We all heard about megabytes, gigabytes. So gigabyte is 10 to the power of 9. You go to terabytes, it's 10 to the power of 12. Petabytes is 10 to the power of 15. Exabyte is 10 to the power of 18. And we are today in a world of zettabytes. So it's 10 to the power of 21, and then it's 10 to the power of 24, which is yottabytes. So we are starting to talk about yottabytes and exabytes, not on petabytes. That's the level of data that is being created around this world in multiple markets, and I'll show you where they are being created. From a hard drive industry per se, just in 2015, we have shipped over 600 exabytes of storage in hard drive. It is huge. We are talking about the inflection of solid state. The entire solid state industry is around 30, 40 exabytes. So you can see the amount of gap that solid state had to cover in order for us to cover the entire storage market. And the storage market is not started. It's just starting to evolve. So there's a huge amount of storage that is being generated across the industry here. To give you an example on the hard drive, we talk about semiconductor industry. We talk about we are in 14 nanometer. We are in 7 nanometer. I mean, see, if the microprocessor industry is on 7 nanometer, you think you're an extremely high end of technology. The heads in the hard drive industry, can anyone make a guess at what level of space differentiation they operate in? It's 1 nanometer. I mean, so we're talking about heads, multiple heads operating in 1 nanometer spacing between each other. I just couldn't fathom it. Being from a semiconductor industry, I thought we were at the high end of technology, but when you go to the hard drive industry, they have innovated tremendously, and that is causing a lot of applications that probably, if you're in the storage business, you'll understand. You're talking about hot data, you're talking about cold data, you're talking about very cold data. How do you access it? From a consumer perspective, we are unaware of it because when we want some data, we demand and we get it. We don't realize how our end customers are storing this data and making it available to us. Non-volatile memory existed, even from a prehistoric time, right? Our ancestors did store information in silicon. Probably not portable, took a long time to etch the information, but it existed. But just to give a perspective of from then to now, where we have evolved. So in the last 25 years, if you look at SanDisk, we were the innovators of NAND flash, along with our partners Toshiba. We were selling almost a megabyte for $50. In 1991, all of us are born by that time, right? So I'm pretty sure millennials are here. You can understand how expensive it is. To today, I'm selling at less than a quarter a gigabyte. To the extent, we have built cards which is 256 gigabytes on a micro SD card. It is alleged, I'm just telling you this word, it's alleged that Snowden stole all the files on a device which is as small as a fingernail. And can you guess how much files he stored in that device, allegedly? 1.7 million files. And we have access to storage devices which have incredible storage capacity. And this is how the storage industry is evolving. And it's evolving at a pace that, even for us, it's difficult to comprehend. So, as dumb I was 4 years ago, I had no idea that they were storing multiple bits in a single cell. Going to the flash industry, I realized, holy Moses, when did you guys start doing this? When I coming from the SRAM world, I thought, okay, 1 bit. Then I saw 2 bits, then I see 3 bits. And this is proprietary technology. This is making flash extremely condensed, giving you a lot more amount of storage in a very small footprint, and gives you the endurance, gives you the reliability, gives you the performance. And again, pioneered by SanDisk as well. And if you look at the range of innovation that has happened, and if you look at the flash storage business, has been traditionally driven by consumers. Today, it's going into enterprise. So have you ever seen a market that is driven by consumer going to enterprise is clearly something that is being done here. And this is what is growing the explosion in cloud, hyperscale, enterprise, in every market that you can think about. So to the extent we have this year released a terabyte SD card. So you can have a terabyte of SD card and your entire hard drive can get backed up in your laptop. And this is the kind of storage capacities that are going to come into existence. So where are we headed? This is giving you until today, until 2016. Where are we headed now? This is even more exciting for me. So first, let's talk about data. So the universe of data continues to expand rapidly. We see it all the time in our personal and professional lives. We are rapidly evolving into a data-centric world. We are seeking dramatic growth driven by opportunities in machine learning, transportation, medical, healthcare applications, and some of the markets that we have mentioned here. To give you an idea of what's being done from a data perspective, every 2 days we create more data from beginning of time till 2003. Every day today we are creating more data from beginning of time till 2003. Over 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years. By 2020, the amount of data would have grown from 4 zettabytes, which is today, to 40 zettabytes by 2020. And to store 40 zettabytes, there are these huge facilities coming up across the world. And so here are some of the statistics that you can see, what happens in YouTube, what happens in Facebook, what you do on an hourly basis, every minute. And this all is transforming itself into data and storage. Innovations in the multitude of edge devices. So edge devices are critical. Your cell phones, your laptops, your netbooks are all edge devices. Are driving dramatic increase in the amount of data being generated. Innovations in the cloud are fundamentally reshaping the economics of aggregating all the data to allow transformation and access. And all this is resulting in exponential increase in the rate of data creation, driving increased needs for storage. I couldn't believe that when I saw that a car is going to generate 6 terabytes of data a day. You're talking about industries which are automated industries are going to be generating a petabyte of data a day. A user is 1 exabyte. User is gone. We thought we were generating a lot of data. We are nothing compared to what's going to happen in the next few years to come, right? And this is continuing to grow at a very rapid pace. So we talked about connected devices. We talked about big data and machine learning. So the rise of big data and insight generated from breakthrough technologies such as machine learning are changing the way we think about everything, from healthcare to basic transportation. The migration of mobile devices as the primary gateway to the digital world has fundamentally altered the experience of billions of people. Today we can't think about living without a mobile phone. The shift to centralized storage accessible anywhere through public and private clouds has upended the industrial hierarchy of the legacy storage market. And the growing importance of solid state, which is key, which is where the transformation is going to happen, has enabled new form factors and use cases across consumers and enterprise solutions. So I'd just like to acknowledge that one of the key form factors that SanDisk pioneered was the micro SD form factor, which we have sold billions of devices around the world. We have my colleague here, Haim Takiyar, who owns the patent for it. Haim, where you are, please. He's going to be part of a panel. So he was one of the fundamental innovators of micro SD packaging format. So packaging is going to be another thing that we continuously think of, how we're going to be enabling these packaging technologies into devices. So what is happening? We are now experiencing an increasing virtuous cycle of valuable data creation. And more data is being generated. Our ability to extract value from transforming the data is expanding at a rate in ways that we often cannot comprehend. It's amazing. The data must be accessible anywhere, anytime, through any device. And all this requires storage. And this fundamental evolution that is going on is really changing the way we think. And it's not just us. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk about what's happening with our partners. So advancement in the data science and technology innovations, such as the latest chipsets from NVIDIA, Google's TensorFlow, IBM's Watson, are enabling remarkable value creation from this data. As an example, the Watson Health ability to read 200 million pages of medical text in 3 seconds enables doctors to generate critical life-saving diagnostics. Do all of you realize that Watson was enrolled in Columbia in 2011 for a medical degree and was given the degree 2 years ago? I'm not joking, it is a fact. Watson enrolled itself in Columbia and University of Maryland, and today is officially certified as a medical specialist. And I have to cite an example here. There was a study conducted by 5 hospitals, and Watson was the key person. They generated almost 250,000 samples of patients and fed all the medical data to Watson. Watson understood the entire data, processes it, understood this were patients had no problems, these are patients had cancer. Great. Doctors found out, hey man, this guy is pretty interesting. And next day, a new patient walks in, the doctor looks at all the symptoms and says, you're fine, you have no problem. They feed the same data into Watson. Watson says, hey, you better go get a biopsy done. I think you're going to get cancer. So the doctor said, oh man, something wrong with the programming. Watson is probably not, the algorithm is not right, and dismissed it. 6 months later, the patient walks in with cancer. What Watson has done is figured out from the algorithm certain cells that the human eye was not detecting, which were cancerous. And Watson was able to do it. And this is transforming the healthcare industry. The reason I'm saying this, by integrating the big data analytics into healthcare, the industry can save almost $300 billion. That is equivalent to saving $1,000 per year for man, woman, and child. The healthcare industry is going to transform the way you see data. So I want to differentiate here between data and information. You can have data without information, but you cannot have information without data. That's the key. So when we talk about data, it's good, a lot of noise. There is no information. What you extract from data is information, and that's key. And people who can extract that relevant data are going to control the world. They can monetize it. They can create new industries with it. They can create new applications with it. They can transform the world. So what's happening? The result is greater than 4 times increase in the amount of stored data by 2020. Where the data is stored is also changing significantly to enable new form factors, greater power efficiencies. In addition, more data is being stored in private and public clouds. By 2020, should hold roughly 90% of all centrally stored data. We are well positioned in this virtuous cycle. More data, higher value from data, greater access, and continuous push for innovation to store this data. We have a broad portfolio of devices that serves all the markets that we're talking about here. Let it be from home, city, medical, industrial, enough to supply all the markets that we want. So one of my previous speakers said that the growth in the industry is starting to flatten out. In the storage industry, I don't see that. You can see what's happening just from the client storage perspective. It's growing. From a flash perspective, the PC industry is flattened out. But guess what's happening? People are switching from hard drive to flash. So the flash business is starting to boom in an industry which is flat, right? Look at what's happening in the wearable solutions, in wearable markets. Growth again in flash. So the flash industry is growing at a tremendous pace. That is semiconductor. It's not, we have to understand that flash is semiconductor. People need to get away from thinking processing is only semiconductor. Processing is part of the semiconductor industry. Look what's happening in terms of connected variables, machine-to-machine data traffic flow. This all just in the client devices side of it. I'm not talking from a solutions perspective. I'm not talking about enterprise. This all is just consumer. Look at what's happening from a data center and enterprise perspective. You're talking about 58% CAGR growth. You're talking about 35% for streaming analytics. These are unheard of. We are going through an explosion in storage industry. It's transforming the way we are storing data. We're transforming the way we're bringing devices in. How innovation is happening? We are doing a lot of innovation still in hard drive business. A lot of people think hard drive is an industry that is not innovating. I thought that until I got bought over, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know you guys are doing this. Heat-assisted magnetic recording, the helium technology. Somebody talk about the 3D flash. We're going from 32 layer, 48 layer, 64 layer. We're going to 128 layer of flash. So the flash industry is going through a Moore's law phenomenon, which the CMOS industry did. So if you look at the CMOS industry, they went through the Moore's law until FinFET, and they thought everything was dead until FinFET came along, and now we're going all the way up to 7 nanometer, 4 nanometer. The same thing happened in the flash industry. We went up to 1Z nanometer, which we call as a 15 nanometer, and we thought, we're done. But 3D has given us a new life, and we are seeing an amazing amount of revolution happening in 3D flash storage. So we believe, from a hard drive perspective, there's still innovation left, a lot of innovation left, and continue to happen. And from a solid state, it's going into not only 3D, we also are looking at resistive memory as well. We talked about storage class memories. So if in the next few years, the entire compute hierarchy is going to see a different level of storage. You're talking about L1 cache, L2 cache, L3 cache, DDR, storage class memories, then flash. All this will be relevant. How you architect around it is going to change. The processor is not something that people built around. The last few years, we built everything around the processor. In the next decade or so, you're going to build everything around the storage, because data accessibility is going to be key. How are processors going to access data in all these memory hierarchies as fast as they can? Reliably, securely, is going to be key. So we are sampling our 64-bit layer. It's already available in our flash devices. We're going to the OEMs. We have the smallest 256 gigabit chip in the industry. We are building 512 gigabit on a single chip. These are fundamental innovations happening in the storage industry. So in summary, what do I have to say? Location has been datafied. Health has been datafied. Security has been datafied. Transportation has been datafied. We live in a new economy where data is going to be the currency. Growing sources of data is increased demand for digital memory and storage. There are three important trends: data proliferation, real-time analytics, and generation of economic advantage. Global challenges are going to be dealt with effective use of data. The data has gone from being stationary and static to dynamic and fluid. And I have this quote from a professor called Edwards Deming. I found it very, very humorous. And I love it. And I tell this to my kids. My kids love it because they don't trust me. It says, "In God we trust, all others must bring data." Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, as we're running behind schedule, we won't take any questions. I'd like to request Mr. Guru Ganesan, President and Managing Director, ARM Embedded Technologies, to please present a small token of appreciation to Mr. Ganesh Guruswamy. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a big round of applause.